From repetition to innovation, unleashing productivity with an automation mindset, with Christopher Stringham.
My name's Chris Stringham. I started in the MSP industry about 6 years ago, almost to the day. Started at Tier 1 and have moved up to a full-time developer now. I Google faster than many people, though that claim is unsubstantiated. And I hate repetitive tasks. That is substantiated. I also believe that lazy is just another word for efficient if given half a chance. On that topic, there's a quote that says, "If necessity is the mother of invention, laziness is the father." When I first got into IT, I did so with the idea that I was going to be making people's lives easier, making an impact by changing things and doing things for the better. But what I ended up doing is the repetitive things. I was resetting passwords, creating accounts, running reports, doing the same tasks over and over, all things that needed to be done, but nothing that really felt like it was moving the needle. And so what pushed me towards automation was pure, unfiltered laziness. I wanted to make things easier for myself, and others as well, but mainly myself. And before I knew it, I had turned that laziness into a bit of a career-defining trait. So today, I want to present to you a method on how anyone, regardless of title, technical skill, can become a champion for automation, whether by building it, using it, or promoting it. Then I want to go over how automation can support career and organizational growth, and then explore how failure fuels that growth. To start, you have to start at the top, and so we're going to look towards leaders first. Leaders, you need to lead. As a leader, it is your job to provide a clear strategic direction and actively support automation efforts. As a leader, your team is looking to you for not just permission, but priority as well. If you say automation is important, but never revisit it, never bring it up again in planning sessions or in meetings, then it gets buried. Championing automation means putting it on the roadmap, asking questions like, how can we automate this, and giving people time to explore it. Your job isn't to build the automation, but to make it safe and valuable for others to try. Second, stay informed with what's possible, even if you aren't the one building it. You don't have to be in the trenches working with Microsoft Power Automate or the Graph API. But if you know the general capabilities, it's going to make the ideas and the people that are bringing those to the surface so much more interconnected. If someone brings up a process pain point and says, hey, this is a bit of a struggle, it gives you the ability to say, I think we can automate that, and then point them to the correct individual to help them out the best. That kind of awareness turns you into a multiplier for value and encourages others to continue to try new things. Lastly, leaders, you need to celebrate wins. Automation champions often show up in surprising places. Maybe it's a help desk tech who figured out a Teams webhook, or maybe it's a business project analyst who made a killer Excel macro. When a leader notices and recognizes those things, it sends a clear message to the rest of the org that says, this matters and you matter. That celebration can be the spark that really drives a cultural shift to embrace automation within your organization. Now, along with leaders, you need builders as well. And builders are going to build. Builders, you are the type of people who turn repeatable pain points into automated workflows that scale. This is the group that is in the trenches, turning frustration into flow. You're the ones who see a clear process from the clunky nature of things. There's got to be a better way is your thought process. Whether you're scripting something in PowerShell or building flows in Power Automate, you're laying down the automation backbone for the organization. You also give the ability for the rest of the organization to balance speed and sustainability. One of the most important things about being a builder, and this comes from a do as I say, not as I do, because I catch myself doing this already. One of your responsibilities is making sure that what you build is documented, shared, and iterated upon. It's tempting to throw together a quick fix and walk away, but champions of automation don't do that. They don't just share what they've built with the team, they build responsibly. That means documenting what you made, sharing it with the team, and being ready to refine it when it breaks or scales weirdly, because it will. You're not just solving problems, you're creating solutions that people can trust. Third, builders collaborate with the non-technical teammates to build what they need. One of the biggest automation failures that I've seen within organizations is that the builders assume they understand the problem without talking to anyone who's actually living it. Real champions of automation don't just go off on their own and do what they believe needs to happen. Real champions of automation work with their teammates. They ask questions and they build with them, not just for them. One of the biggest things for builders as well is embracing failure. Testing early, breaking small things, and learning loudly. Every great automation stands or starts as a terrible one. I can't tell you how many times I've built something and thought it was a tremendous process that as soon as it got into the hands of our users, that it just didn't work the way they didn't work the way that I had thought they were going to, and what they were expecting from me wasn't what they got. And so that failure is a pivoting point, a place for you to sit down and learn and grow from that. And do it early, do it loud, and share what you've learned. The vulnerability builds credibility and helps others feel safe to try new things as well. If they see those people within your organization who are the ones who are supposed to be building things, if they see those people fail and be open about it, it makes them more comfortable to try new things, because if the people in charge of this kind of stuff are failing, they can too, and that's not a bad thing. The last type of champion within an organization is a booster, not a bystander. Now, this is arguably one of the most important champions in an organization, because they're able to be vocal about what is and is not working. You don't have to write code or automation to improve it. If you're using it, your feedback is part of the build process. Speak up when it's clunky, confusing, or just not saving time, because that happens. That honesty, it shapes the next iteration of your automations. Boosters also are responsible for sharing feedback early to make the automation better and faster. Waiting until things are polished is one of the greatest traps for embracing automation within an organization. Champions give feedback mid-process. The comment of, hey, this part is super helpful, but I still have to do X manually, that kind of insight is golden. Boosters also promote wins and encourage others to try to adopt new solutions. One of the biggest challenges when embracing automation within an organization is getting others within the organization to adopt that automation. Boosters, you're the internal hype team for the organization. When you talk about how a workflow saved you 10 minutes a day, people listen. That kind of peer validation drives adoption way better than any manager announcement ever could. Boosters also lead by example. They use the tools and talk about how they help. If your team sees you using automation and making it part of your daily routine, they'll be way more likely to follow along and use that automation to help themselves. You become the example, not because you're technical, but because you're intentional. So, what happens when leaders lead, builders build, and boosters boost? You don't just save time, you create champions within your organization. A champion drives growth by creating momentum. When people are empowered, whether they're building, boosting, or just asking smart questions, things start to move. A small win might be someone automating a single checklist, but that energy spreads. Other people see that success and think, hey, maybe I could do something like that too. That's how that momentum is built, not by mandates, but by modeled behavior within your organization. Champions drive growth by raising the floor. Automation doesn't just raise the ceiling for innovation, it raises the floor for consistency. You get fewer mistakes, less wasted time, and more predictable outcomes. It frees people up to focus on higher impact work, and it makes onboarding new team members so much faster and smoother. It's not just about being more productive, it's about building a more reliable foundation. Champions drive growth by building trust and visibility. When people openly share what's working, and especially what isn't, it builds credibility. That kind of transparency creates a feedback loop. Others feel comfortable speaking up, the builders get better insight, and when leadership or peers recognize those efforts, it reinforces that this work matters. That's how trust grows, through honesty and recognition. Now, finally, champions drive growth by, and most importantly, shaping the culture. This is where the real transformation for your organization happens when adopting automation. When everyone feels that they can contribute, even if they're not technical, you start shifting the entire mindset of the organization. It's no longer that one automation guy or that dev over there. It's baked into how people think. Champions create that environment where improvement is expected, shared, and celebrated. So I want to take a quick second, and I just want you to think to yourself, what kind of champion are you within your organization? Are you a leader, a builder, a booster, maybe a mix of each? And more importantly, what would it look like for you to show up just a little more and improve upon what is expected in that role? If all of this sounds a little too neat and tidy, like things in these types of presentations often do, then you're ready for the next part, because we're going to talk about something a bit more messy. We're going to be talking about failing, and failing loudly. So one of my favorite quotes growing up comes from Adam Savage from Mythbusters, and that's failure is always an option. Failure isn't a detour from the path, it is the path. We're all going to mess up, miss something, or build the wrong thing. It happens. We're all human. But failure isn't the opposite of progress. It's often the thing that unlocks the next breakthrough. If we treat failure like an inevitable and valuable part of the process, we stop fearing it. And when we stop fearing it, we begin to recognize that growth doesn't come from getting it right. It comes from trying again. If everything you build works the first time, you're probably not pushing yourself enough. Real growth happens when something breaks, or you have to figure out why something isn't working quite the way you want it to be. That loop of try, fail, reflect, try again is what levels up your skills and your confidence. When it comes to champions within your organizations, Champions, whether you're a leader, a builder, or a booster, champions don't avoid mistakes. They learn out loud. This is a big one because when you share what went wrong, you make it easier for the next person or yourself to try something new. You're not just solving your own problems, you're helping others avoid the same pitfalls. That kind of openness makes you a multiplier for growth and acceptance of automation within your organization. And when you accept failure, you change the culture. Again, a culture that allows failure creates space for innovation. You don't get innovation in a room full of people afraid to mess up. If you learn, or if your team feels safe to take risks, to be honest when something breaks, and to try again, you've built the kind of culture where creativity thrives. You've built the type of culture that's where the best ideas come from, because people aren't afraid to try or to just stay safe. They're going to try to make things better. So, because of the state of the IT industry in general right now, I also felt it was important that I bring up one of the biggest buzzwords in our industry, AI. So, with AI being the hot buzzword and a serious force multiplier for automation if used correctly, we need to make sure that we are doing things responsibly. It's about making everyone a little more capable and turning people into champions, whether they're coding, clicking, or critiquing. If we treat AI as just another automation tool, we miss the point. It's a mindset amplifier, and like everything else I've gone over today, it only works if we use it, share it, and shape it together. AI is a bit of a team sport in the MSP industry. I've seen time and time again the acceptance of AI tools for one department within an organization, but other people don't get access to those same tools. And it leads to a bit of a divide in what is accepted and what is used to drive your business forward. So, leaders, you set the tone for the usage of AI within your organization. Use AI yourself, don't just endorse it, and sponsor pilots that scale and work. As Harvard Business Administration professor Kareem Lakhani says, AI isn't something you delegate. It's something you model. If leadership doesn't use it, no one else will prioritize it. Leaders, if you aren't trying the tools and talking about your experiences, no one's going to recognize their value. And if you don't sponsor safe places for people to experiment, no one's going to try. Being open about what you have seen and what you have used, and then giving people the opportunity to use these tools for themselves, that's how you turn theory into momentum. Builders, with AI, you can scale faster. You have to make sure it's not sloppier, though. Using AI, you can supercharge your productivity, but you also have to validate, document, and constantly revisit what you have built. We're in an age where there is an abundance of expertise. You don't need to memorize syntax or figure out how to manually create flows anymore. You have this tool at your hands that will tell you specifically how to do it. But with that speed, if you don't have any structure to it, you are stuck in chaos. Use AI as a builder, yes, but you need to make sure you review its output, test it, and make sure others can understand it later. It's like documenting something for yourself as if you have amnesia in the future. Because you didn't come up with this, some computer did. And so if you're able to write that documentation, it's going to help you understand it way more, and then anytime something pops up with it, you can help others. Finally, boosters, You drive responsible adoption of these tools. Experiment with what your team creates early, share feedback, and normalize learning in public. AI doesn't need to be perfect to be useful. It just needs to be shaped. Boosters are on the front lines, and that one weird prompt you used that didn't give you quite the result that you were expecting, that's data. That workflow that you liked and kind of worked, but a little bit felt off, talk about it. Sharing those experiences when it comes to using AI tools and embracing AI within automation in your organization, that is how you help improve and get others comfortable using it. Now, like I said, AI is not just a tool, it is a mindset amplifier. Think of AI as jet fuel for your automation mindset. It doesn't replace champions, it upgrades them. Curious people become even more curious, builders get more ambitious, and boosters get faster at testing and sharing ideas. But it doesn't fix bad habits. You'll still need good judgment, feedback, and process. Culture also determines the impact of how AI is adopted. If your org treats AI like a special access tool, for senior engineers, you're already behind. Train everyone, encourage low-stakes exploration, normalize weird outputs. Innovation comes when you let people play with the tools, not just check boxes. And as a builder, you embrace this kind of messing with things. Because as people start putting in the things that you don't expect, you understand more and more on how you can build resilient automation systems. And then everyone contributes to AI success. Every prompt is part of that feedback loop. Every person asking questions helps train the tool and refine the process. The more your team uses AI, the more it becomes valuable, so long as it's being done together and intentionally. It's not about being perfect, it's about participating. Now, I want to go over a few things that I've seen as shortcomings as organizations embrace automation, and some of the things that I've seen people do well. One of the first things that I've seen as a big problem is accepting one part of the organization taking on automation tasks and then just pushing that onto the rest. Often I see people say that they've built a whole workflow for solving a very niche and specific problem for the organization. And while it works well, if the organization wants to use it, they have to go out of the way to some third-party platform in order to use it. While that may speed things up, the taking someone out of their flow really slows them down. The other thing I've seen is picking up bad habits, and I've done this myself quite a lot. As you embrace automation within your organization, it is a time for you to do constant reflection and review of what you have built. Automation isn't built out of nowhere, it's built on process. If there isn't a process, if there isn't something that can be defined, then you can't automate it. If you go out and try to build a process from automation, you run into situations where people are less than thrilled with what they have been provided. One of the easiest ways to avoid situations like this is by constantly receiving feedback from your organization, having a process in place for them to tell you what's wrong, what they would like to see done better, or what challenges that they're facing. And when this happens, take that opportunity to sit down and do a mini interview with that individual or team. See what things are actually causing those issues to arise. Once you understand that process, and maybe even get in the weeds a little bit and do that process for yourself, you are able to build much better systems. And then as an organization, it is the booster's responsibilities to then tell you off of what you've built, what is and isn't working, so those builders can go back and refine it. So, I want to open up the floor to any questions and just see what people have. I think there was some in the app, if I pull this up real quick. So, when automating MSP processes, how do you avoid the trap of replicating bad habits at scale? Like I said, this is fairly common. One of the best things you can do to avoid those bad habits is reflection. Going through and looking at what you have built early on and taking on the responsibility of going back and fixing those. The other thing for that is making sure you have a place where you're tracking that work. Going into a SharePoint list or GitHub or Azure DevOps, someplace where you know what is being done on these systems and actually working on them, like showing the progress that is being done so your organization knows that you are listening to that feedback. The other thing is a lot of these platforms that are marketed towards MSPs for automation tend to have a pretty steep learning curve despite being marketed towards what they call citizen developers. You end up with people who don't really have a background in development or automation working on things that they're going out of their comfort zone to do. And unless you have someone there to teach them these things, you tend to pick up those bad habits. And so as you learn and grow and figure out how to use these systems more and more, if you're able to go back and recognize where you have fallen short in the past and apply new knowledge, that helps break those bad habits and ensures that they don't happen again. The other side to that is if you have a whole team of people working on this stuff, enforce standards. Define what your processes look like and what your expectations for these automations are. That way, when someone builds or develops something, you have peers who are able to look at them and tell them whether it's within the standard or not. That helps to ensure that people who are new to this process, they are still open to building, but they can also go in and recognize where they've done something maybe a little less efficient than is expected. I think that's the only question that was in the Whova app, so does anyone else have any questions? It's a really delicate balance. When your customers see the cool things that you're able to get done, and if you're marketing those properly, like showing off what you're capable of doing with the technology that you have available, it's hard not to get those questions. And when those come up, that's an opportunity for you to not only show the customer and enable them to build on their own, but also work more deeply with them. The things that we see most often, in my experience, is one of the first things that we automated for ourselves was our contact list within our CRM system, making sure that's always kept up to date because we have access to our customers' environments. When we've talked about that with our customers, obviously they have people that they're working with and they want to learn how to do that themselves. And the real impact with that has come from being able to sit down and provide training rather than building the automation for them. I think one of the things that people get caught up with in that situation is once you build an automation for a customer, now you are maintaining it as well. And so the biggest impact we've seen is providing training rather than building it ourselves. That way they can build what they need faster and more customized towards their processes. So majority of our customers, when we provide services to them, we're doing so with the Microsoft platform, and so we're giving them E5 or Business Premium licenses. And so we're training them on how to access mainly the Microsoft Power Platform, show them how flows work, giving them a pretty decent overview of that entire platform, but then also sitting down and as they have things that they build and they have questions answering or being available to answer those questions and show them better ways to do things if they're struggling. That way it encourages them to go out and experiment on their own because they know that they have someone there who is able to answer those questions if they arise. It's one of those, it's almost a game you have to play with it. You have to get it to talk to itself a little bit to get the best results in my experience. The process I normally take is I provide just going from a completely standalone model, telling it what goal I'm trying to achieve. I outline the system that I'm working in, bullet point the goals that I'm trying to achieve, and then if I'm trying to then use a model within an automation, have it write an effective prompt for me based off of that, and then take the prompt that ChatGPT or Claude or whatever has written, and then use that prompt within whatever model I'm using with that automation. Is that kind of what you're? Yeah. Okay. It's probably the most difficult thing to build out of those because a leader, you get into that position pretty naturally. A developer, you're typically hired into that, or you pretty naturally grow into that. A booster is someone you have to constantly keep in the loop with those things. As your developers build things and create new automations or tools for your organization to use, you have to make sure that the rest of the team is involved in that they're shown how to use it, shown the resources that are available to them, and then the time saving that it provides, and follow up on that. As these tools are rolled out to your organization, make sure that maybe not your developers, but your leaders are checking in with the people who are using it, making sure that they know what's happening and that whatever is the developers are building are doing so in an effective way. Once that's done, you start building the pathway to have the boosters be more vocal about it on their own. And so it's a bit of a mindset you have to build within people, is being vocal about the new things that they're trying and being a champion within your own organization. It's a constant thing. One of the most recent things that we're running into within our organization, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier about automating our contact list within our CRM. That had been originally built for a very specific system that we were working with. And then as our business continued to grow, we started adding more and more onto that. And we're at a point where we have basically the entire business working out of one database. And the data that we're collecting for our break-fix side of the house isn't the same data that needs to be collected for our sales or our infrastructure team. And so we have to go back and look at those automations that we've built previously and adjust those. And we wouldn't know that that has to happen unless we have those people who are using the tools and interacting with them, speaking up and saying, this is what isn't working for me, and giving specifics of this is what I'm expecting to see and how it could help my job. If someone told me they didn't have time to invest in automation, then they aren't focused on ROI, in my opinion. Someone who wants return on investment is going to want to look at all of the options available, and if that isn't a priority of theirs, they probably have some reevaluating that they have to do on their own. But one of the arguments that can be provided in those situations is just being able to go out and build these systems and show them what it ends up doing. A lot of the time, like what I see from organizations as they adopt automation is it starts with someone going above and beyond and building a tool without being asked to, and then using that as the launching point to show how much time and money it saves them to have that open to them. I really appreciate everyone coming today, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of MSPGeekCon.